What's up, YouTube? So, I've been playing Warzone now since it was released, and throughout that time, the meta in the game has really changed quite a bit, with new tactics and new updates being involved and discovered. So, in this video, I'll show you the 5 best guns in Warzone as of right now, from all the various changes the developers have introduced, and also from new tactics and strategies being discovered in the game. So, this list is going to be based on my own personal preferences and what guns I like to use, but I've also done a lot of other research by looking at what guns a lot of the top streamers and like pro competitive COD players are using, so that will also factor into my decision for this list. Now with that being said, I'm going to make this list based on how the weapons complement each other in the game, and mostly each weapon on this list will be the best at what they do for that particular purpose. So for example, are they good at long range, are they good at medium range, or are they versatile, and so forth. Now the reason I'm going to do the list like this is because, for example, in the assault rifle category, the top 3 assault rifles are really quite close together in terms of performance, so I could just very easily, make this list based on, M4, Grau, M13, blah blah blah, and just have those as like my top weapons in the game. But that wouldn't be very useful to you, would it? Because like the assault rifles, they're really good at medium range, but if you already picked up an assault rifle in the game, there's very little point in you actually grabbing a second assault rifle to go with that. You'd much rather have like a SMG, for example, because then that will cover you for close range, right? So that's kind of why I'm going to do the list like this and how I'm going to proceed with the rest of the video. So with all that out of the way, if you do end up enjoying this video, please subscribe to my channel. If you like this kind of content, of course, it really means a lot to me as someone just starting out on YouTube. And yeah, without further ado, let's move on to the 5 best weapons in Warzone. And in no particular order, starting at number 5, we have the MP7. Now this is the most versatile SMG in the entire game, because not only is it great at close range, but it can also be used really confidently in full auto up to medium range. And this is because it has very easy to control recoil, which is surprising to me because it has a ridiculously high fire rate of 968 rounds per minute, which means that at those medium ranges it will be very easy to hit moving targets. And the MP7 also has a very good time to kill of 558 milliseconds, which ranks it in 3rd place behind the AUG and the MP5 in fastest time to kill SMGs, against someone with 3 armor plates, of course. But unlike the other SMGs, you won't feel as outgunned when you're facing an assault rifle user, for example, at medium range, because the MP7's high accuracy, like we mentioned, and its high fire rate makes it way easier to land shots, and if you're actually missing your shots, it doesn't impact your time to kill as badly as the other SMGs in the game. For example, the AUG has a 769 round per minute, and so if you're missing your shots with the AUG, that is way more punishing on you than, say, missing with your MP7, just because like the time in between each shot on the MP7 is so low that you can afford to miss a few shots here and there and it won't impact your kill potential as badly. So for the attachments, you'll want to run the monolithic suppressor, of course, to stay off the radar, the recon barrel for the maximum range, 60 round extended mags, commando foregrip, and either the stippled grip tape or the tac laser. Now I would say the tac laser is better if you see yourself fighting more at medium range, but the stippled grip tape I think is the better choice if you're going to be running and gunning, because the sprint to fire speed benefit that you get from the stippled grip tape is just really good if you're chasing someone down. So moving on to number 4, we're going to give this one to the RPG, and it is a very, very strong weapon, even with its recent nerf. So just a bit of background, from the latest update, the RPG damage was actually buffed from 150 damage to 250 per shot. So where before you couldn't actually one-hit kill someone with the blast radius, if you're landing your shots right next to someone now who's fully armored, you apparently can kill them in one shot. But, of course, direct hits will always be a one-hit kill no matter what, so there's that to consider too. Now, what they did end up nerfing with the RPG was actually the blast radius, so now you would have to be a little bit more accurate, I suppose, if you want to do good damage with the blast radius, and if you actually want to one-hit kill someone, you'll have to actually land it quite close to their feet. So I think now a lot of people are still saying, and I've seen a lot of people complaining that they can't seem to down people as easily like they used to because of that blast radius nerf, which does make sense. Before it was just like super overpowered, but Anyways, with that being said, the RPG is still great, and the thing that really makes it dominate the other launchers is its extremely fast reload time. So if you're using AMPs, you can pretty much just spam shots, and if anything, I think this is what they should have nerfed. They should have made it so you can't carry like 6 extra rockets with the RPG, because that's really what makes it overpowered, and just the other launchers can't compete with that because they take so long to reload. And yes, against vehicles, I guess you can say the other RPGs, like the Strela, for example, has a lock-on effect. But the lock-on, I've never really found it to be that useful, because when you're locking onto an enemy vehicle, it gives them a big fat warning sign, so they can easily just exit the vehicle before getting destroyed. Or if they're good enough, they'll just like drive behind some cover and you can't shoot them with the lock-on. So I just don't really like the lock-on that much. And if you're like trying to really go for someone at close range with who's charging at you with a vehicle, you don't have time to lock onto them properly anyways. You just have to shoot your shot off straight away, and that's where the RPG really excels, because you can quite easily destroy a truck with 2 shots, whereas the other ones, like the 1 shot will take way too long to reload, and the truck will either get away or run you over. So that's why we're gonna say RPG for number 4, because it's just the best at what it does, and that's at destroying vehicles. So, going on to number 3, this slot goes to the MP5, which is the fastest killing full auto gun in this game. Now, previously the AUG 556 had this title with its 556 ammo conversion kit, but that was nerfed, so the MP5 is now the king of that. Technically, the MG34 still has a faster kill time, but when you factor in its 67 millisecond firing delay, that's no longer the case. Now, the MP5 has a time to kill of 504 milliseconds against someone with 3 armor plates and full health. Now, that's just ridiculously fast, and it's really quite interesting, actually, how this came about for the MP5 to suddenly become the meta weapon in the game, because until quite recently, a lot of people weren't using the MP5 that much, but it was only really until the Akimbo Snake Shot Magnums got nerfed that it left a kind of a big void for a reliable close-range gun to take its place, and this basically caused a bunch of the pros to start using the MP5 for their close-range needs, and when other people started seeing just how powerful it was and how much they were dominating with the MP5, a lot of people started copying it, until now we have like a bunch of people running around with the MP5. Now, the Renettis used to be quite good, but they got nerfed recently, which makes the MP5 even better in its place now. So, yeah. As it stands, the MP5, it even outclasses the shotguns pretty much at... Well, okay, the shotguns are better at point-blank range, but realistically, how often are you going to be using the shotguns at point-blank range? You'd have to be, like, waiting right at a door for someone to come in, but as soon as they, like, get even a couple of meters or, like, so away from you, the MP5 just becomes much more better and viable. So... yeah, it's just the most versatile close-range gun in the entire game, which is why I'd recommend you to definitely try it out. Now, with that being said, it does have one big drawback, and that's its recoil control is not that forgiving. So if we compare it to the MP7, for example, the MP7 can be used as a primary weapon because you can engage people up to medium range just because of its extremely easy to control recoil. The MP5, on the other hand, you should only really be using this as a close range weapon. So I'd only say pick it up if you have like another assault rifle or something in your loadout that you can use to go for medium range, and this is actually a really good strategy. A lot of people pair the MP5 with their assault rifle or sniper rifle, so just make sure you're doing that. Now for the attachments, you'll want to run the integral monolithic suppressor. Now it actually gives you slightly more damage range than the regular monolithic suppressor at the cost of a slightly worse aim down sight speed. Now, I know it doesn't say that in the stat bar or stat description, but it's just, remember one thing, the stat description in COD is wrong usually, so don't trust that. A lot of other YouTubers have tested it, and it actually does have a slightly better damage range on the integral monolithic suppressor than the regular monolithic suppressor, so just bear that in mind. So you'll also want to use the 45 round extended mags. You'll want to use the Merc foregrip for better hip fire accuracy and also for slight recoil control. You want to use the stippled grip tape as well for the sprint to fire speed and better aim down sight speed. And lastly, you'll want to use the F-Tac collapsible stock for that movement speed boost and of course the better aim down sight speed boost that you get with that. Now we're really kitting this out for close range. We don't even want to try to make it better at medium range because we're going to have an assault rifle or a sniper rifle to handle that. So really just focus the attachments on close range and you will dominate with this. Now, moving on to number 2, we have objectively the best sniper in all of Warzone, and that is, of course, the HDR. Now, it has the fastest bullet velocity and longest damage range of all the snipers in the game. So, when you're going for those long shots, you won't need to aim above the enemy as much. And this does, unfortunately, come at the cost of fire rate, but I think in Warzone, the larger map means accuracy at far range is the better way to go, in my opinion. So, when it comes to the attachments, there are really kind of 2 builds that people tend to go for. Now, I know there's a good chunk of the like streamers and online gaming legends. They like to kit out their HDR to be like really snappy and fast aim down sight speed and all that kind of stuff, which is good. But for me personally, and I think for most average people, the kitting it out for longer range I think is the better way to go, just because that's the way to use a sniper. Now it's probably not as good for YouTube clips, which is why a lot of those streamers and stuff go for the quick scoping kind of style. But I think if you're going for just kills and stuff, it's probably better to kit it out for long range. So the build I'm going to recommend will suit that better. So for the attachments, you'll want to use the HDR Pro barrel, which will give it the longest range possible. You'll want to use the monolithic suppressor to stay off the radar. Now, for the scopes, you can either use the variable zoom scope or the thermal variable zoom scope. So the normal variable zoom has more range, has more zoom in power than the thermal variable zoom, but of course the thermal one comes with the thermal scope, so you can see people a lot easier if they're not using cold-blooded. So really, those 2 scopes work, and it's up to you what you want to do. Now, I use the 9-round extended mags, and yes, I know that it does slow your gun down a bit in terms of like aiming down sights and movement a little bit. But I think the 9 rounds extended mags really helps a lot, because if I'm taking shots at someone from very long range, just not having to reload really helps a lot. And if I'm playing in team games, I find it very difficult to down more than 2 people with just the default 5-round mags. Maybe I'm just not that accurate, but I really do think if you're engaging an entire squad on your own, having the 9-round extended mags just really helps, and it makes it a lot easier in that regard. So I'm going to recommend that. Now, for the last kind of perk in the perk slot I'm going to recommend, I'd say you should have, for me personally, I'd say the best option is to have kind of 2 sniper classes, one with the fully loaded perk, because sniper ammo can be quite hard to come across sometimes, so there's no point in picking up a sniper with no ammo, right? So if you have one with fully loaded, you can do that. But if you're in the game and you're quite lucky and you found lots of sniper ammo, then you can take your other loadout with the sniper that has the Presence of Mind perk. Now, the Presence of Mind perk is really good, and I think it's quite underrated. It allows you to hold your breath for over a minute. So this is like perfect if you're trying to snipe people from long range and you don't want to worry about having to like run out of breath and your scope just becomes really inaccurate. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend. The focus perk is also alright. It's kind of like if you're going to be quick scoping a lot, then it allows you to take less flinch, which means your scope zoom and stuff won't wobble as much when you're getting shot at. So it's good for like doing the quick scoping approach if you're going to be getting shot at quite a lot. But yeah, those are my top attachments for the HDR sniper. Now for number 1, finally, and I probably gave this away in the intro, but number 1 I think is the Grau 556. And if you're someone who watches a lot of streamers and like people going for high kill records and things like that, you'll notice that they're almost always, most of them will be using the Grau 556. Now, when you look at the Grau stats, its base time to kill is actually pretty slow. It's 640 milliseconds, which is just like, it doesn't really look like it should be that good. So early on in Warzone, very few people were actually using it, but what makes the Grau really outclass the other assault rifles is it's extremely easy to control recoil and damage at range. So you can quite easily just go full auto at people at medium to even long distances away from you, and there's been many times when like I'm getting sniped at by someone and I just spray him down at really long range with a Grau. And yeah, it's just such a good gun for that kind of purpose. It also has the best iron sights in the whole game, so you don't need to waste an attachment slot on a sight, which is a huge plus. Now, at close range, the Grau does struggle a bit, so it's often a good idea to pair this up with something like an MP7 or an MP5. But in terms of fitting that assault rifle role, because it dominates so much at medium range, which is what an assault rifle is supposed to do, I have to give it to the Grau. Now, for the attachments, you'll want to run the monolithic suppressor, the Archangel barrel, Commando foregrip, 60 round extended mags, and the tac laser. But if you don't like the tac laser making you visible, the void grip also works quite well too. Or if you just want pure stability at longer ranges, the Cronin Sniper Elite grip can also fit that bill nicely. Now, I recommended the Archangel barrel, but it has to be said that the Nexus barrel is also quite good, and I sometimes run the Nexus barrel on my own quite a lot for the extra movement speed and slightly better aimed on sight speed that you get with that compared to the Archangel barrel. But the Archangel barrel, I think, is the better choice for most people because it gives you better recoil control as an added benefit, and the iron sights on the Archangel are just amazing. Like, I think it's the best iron sights in the game. The Nexus barrel has good iron sights too, but like just no other iron sights, I think, compared to the Archangel barrel. So that's why I would choose that as well. Now, before I end things in this video, I feel I have to say here that the M4 and M13 are also excellent choices in Warzone, and actually they're preferred by many players of the Grau. But I think overall the Grau is just a better option for most cases, and I didn't feature the M4 in this top 5 list, because if I did that, it could easily just become like mostly assault rifle in this list of mine. And as I said in the beginning, I wanted to pick weapons that complement each other. So if you had a Grau in your loadout, for example, technically if you're like, for most players, I'm saying as an average, for most players in this game, if you're going for just high kills, the Grau is the thing you should be running all the time in a technical sense. Now, that's not to say that you should never run the M4, because I'm sure that, like, for a lot of players, the M4 is their favorite gun, and it actually is better than the Grau at close range, but at medium ranges, the Grau is just better. And let's face it, most cases, you're going to be in a medium range engagement with your guns in Warzone, and like for the times that you have to fight someone at close range, it would be better to pair up the Grau with an MP7 or a MP5, which you can then quickly whip up to protect you. Now, yeah, I hope that makes sense, and to wrap things up in this video, I hope you enjoyed what you've seen here and you learned something new. And if things get updated in this game, I'll make a new video to like put up what I think the best guns are. But as far as recording this, and as far as the game where it is right now, these are, I think, the 5 best guns in this game. So yeah, if you like the video, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out as a new YouTuber, and thanks, and I hope to see you in my next video.